made the terrible mistake of logging.
You okay? Huh? That's okay. Where are we doing
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act and is open to the media and public. Notices were duly posted, and the meeting was advertised in the Hunterdon County Democrat and Courier News. Formal action may be taken. Can I get a roll call, please?
Wayne Dorn,
Here.
Carol Hampel,
Here.
Rob McCallum,
Here.
Melissa Zanto,
Here.
Anna Shin,
Here.
Laura Simon,
Here.
3 absences.
Can we stand for the flag salute?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Simon. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'd first like to start tonight by introducing the Reddington Middle School Student Council. They're here tonight to do a short presentation to discuss some of their service projects that they've been doing in the school or will be doing in the school and in the community. So first item tonight is the Reddington Middle School Student Council. So I'll hand it over to our students here from the middle school. Welcome.
Good afternoon. This is our student council. My name is Sean Huck, and I'm part of the executive.
My name is Vimuki, and I'm the vice president. I'm Ryan Miller, and I'm part of the executive board.
My name is Evan Berlinger, and I'm the event coordinator.
I'm Nana Bennington, and I'm part of the executive board.
I'm Laurel Hannerhead, and I'm part of the executive board.
I'm Julia Scott, and I'm part of the executive board.
I'm Stephanie Gurr, and I'm part of the executive board.
I'm Dana Hennings, and I'm part of the executive board.
I'm Bonnie Godry, and I'm part of the executive board.
I'm Valentina Ensky, I'm part of the executive board. I'm Ryan Jester, I'm part of the executive board. I'm Deeper Jester, and I'm part of the executive board.
All right, so here's our RMS student council presentation. Okay, so the student council at Reddington Middle School is a year-long commitment to improve the school community and the community at large through many forms of service and fundraising. So here's some general info. So our organization follows a constitution that has established clear expectations and guidelines for our students. All information is posted on the RMS Student Council website. Our meetings, at least once a week before school from 7 to 7:25 a.m. Officers are voted into the office by the student body each school year, which is our students, and the members of the executive board apply for a position each year.
Student council officers and roles. The president presides over all general student council meetings and attends all committee and officer meetings. The vice president takes, keeps, and files all meeting minutes from student council general meetings and posts the meeting minutes from the general meetings on the student council Google Classroom. Spirit coordinator creates, organizes, and promotes spirit days hosted by the student council. Keeps accurate attendance at all general meeting and student council meetings. The event coordinator creates, organizes, and promotes events hosted by the student council such as fundraising, community service projects, school dances, activity nights, and other student school occasions. All officers take turns reading the morning announcements during homeroom.
Our student council officers and roles. Students interested in running for office have to apply, campaign, and present a speech to the student body. All students, regardless of grade or participation in student council, are encouraged to run. Students who run for president must be a 7th grader who was an active member of student council last year.
The executive board. This year, 39 students were accepted into student council this year. The members represent the student body and work together on all projects or challenges that come before the student council. The overall goal is to involve students in the decision-making process and to help students become more active members of RMS.
What is the purpose of student council? The purpose of student council is to try to help make the school a fun and enjoyable place for kids and where they can go to learn. We attempt to make our school community a better place to learn and to be role models for the future student council. In our group, we approach the problems like bullying and hold spirit days to show how we are all together. We use students, teachers, and staff's ideas to make our school community a better place.
Our state charity. Every year, the New Jersey Association of Student Council picks a state charity for MJ student councils to raise money for. For example, the Bianca's Kids Grow Row and One Simple Wish. The total money raised by the New Jersey Student Councils are donated to charity at the spring conference at Six Flags. The importance of state charity is recognition for helping others and dedicating our time to making our world a better place.
This year's state charity is One Simple Wish. One Simple Wish empowers you to spread love, hope, and joy to children impacted by foster care, abuse, and neglection. 55,000 kids helped through 700 partners in 48 states. One Simple Wish has spent the past decade raising awareness and support for thousands of children that have experienced abuse, neglection, and foster care all over the U.S. Our goal is to raise $1 million in mission support by December 31st.
Fundraising. Some of our fundraisers designated sale we have the fall and spring conferences, our food drives that are at Thanksgiving, the Super Bowl, the Halloween Dance, and Grand Movies. All the proceeds go to the Flemington Food Pantry. We also have Viking tumbling sales and special sin. We also have a duck cake T-shirts to the wall, and that's at our family movie night. We also have a spirit day called Hack for Hurricanes, and students get the chance to donate $1 to hurricane relief if they wear a hat for the school night. And most of our profits are donated to our state charity, and the rest are used to fund our event.
The Halloween dance held on a Friday is a fun way to hang out with your friends. We have costume contests for kids to show off their costumes. There's a DJ and open gym for sports like basketball. There are lots of yummy and spooky treats. And we also have Guess How Many contests. So last year, one of our own student council members had a mason jar with candy corn in it, and people guessed how many. And we also do a food drive for the Flemington Food Pantry. So when you enter, you can hand in a can, and you'll get entered into the raffle.
Okay, so the movie night is held on a Friday, and the movie that matches the spring drama performance. You can also get a sneak peek of the performance that the drama club will put on. We have a duck tape fundraiser. Students have the opportunity to duct tape teachers to the law. $1 donation equals 1 yard of duct tape. It's a fun night with friends and lots of delicious snacks. Why do we do spirit days? We do spirit days to show school spirit, and sometimes our spirit days go to a good cause. We do spirit days to unify the school and make the year more fun. They also bring RMS together as a school. As a whole, Reddington Middle School benefits from school-wide spirit days. Why we have raffles. We have raffles to give the students who actually participate in the spirit days a chance to win a prize. It sparks student interest by giving the students a reason to participate in the spirit days, other than to show good spirit. Some of the spirit days we have: Wear Blue Day to stomp out bullying, Tie-Dye Day, Twin Day, Wear Your Favorite Sports Jersey Day, Halloween Day, Winter Holiday Day, Hats for Hunger, Blue and Gold Spirit Day, Comfy Cozy Day, Wear Pajamas or Sweatpants, St. Patrick's Day, Wear Green, Patriotic Days, Wear Red, White, and Blue, Wear Pink for Cancer Awareness, Wear neon colors to highlight good behavior, Wear Red Ribbon Week, Hats for Hurricanes, Valentine's Spirit Day, Wear Pink and Red, Star Wars Spirit Day. May the 4th be with you. Community service. Our last year's state charity was Grow Row. Grow Row is a non-profit organization that helps people who do not have access to fresh produce. They also educate people go to grow row to harvest other foods such as tomatoes, squash, corn, and other vegetables. On October 5th, the student council went to Milford location to harvest 30,400 pounds of spaghetti squash. This gives 121,400 servings for people in need.
Grow provides fresh, healthy produce to those in need. They educate people of all generations about hunger and how to help, and they introduce our youth to farming and healthy eating. They cultivate in tomorrow's leaders a habit of giving back. They also contribute to the sustainability of agriculture.
These are some pictures from our trip picking the spaghetti squash. And we had to put them in these sacks. Pronounce that right. And the way we picked them, we just stomped on the stem and pulled on it with our hands. And this is a picture of us putting the spaghetti squash in the box.
Each year we attend 3 NJASC conferences. We have the fall and winter ones, which are held at TCNJ, and the spring one, which is the Six Flags Award ceremony held at Six Flags Great Adventure. Conferences are fun because you listen to inspirational guest speakers. For example, Lance Albright was the keynote speaker at this year's fall conference. He's the first legally deaf player to make it to the Olympiad. Conferences are important because we learn new ways to fundraise and teach us about the state charity. We learn how student councils across New Jersey are making a difference at the middle and high school level. And also participate in a forum with the New Jersey Department of Education where we get the opportunity to see a college campus.
Thank you.
So, thank you for allowing us to present tonight. I wanted to always highlight our amazing students at RMS. This is just a sample of the terrific work we've done. Our student council members work very hard throughout the year. They do get up at crack of dawn to be at the 7 o'clock meetings. And when I've gone down there, the room is full. So these kids really make a commitment. They work hard all year. And I want to thank you while you're here in front of your parents and board members for all the hard work you do. Because you do make RMS a better place, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you for letting us take the time to present this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming out this evening, taking time away from homework. I want to applaud you for all of your dedication. You're making the school a better place, and you're doing great things for yourself as leaders and the community. So I applaud you, and thank you for everything that you do.
Finally, I'll just say thank you, everybody who came tonight. Thank you, parents. It's clear that the middle school student council is learning a lot about service and leadership. So thank you for all of your hard work, for everyone over at the middle school. The work that you do is really important, and make sure you remember that. So thank you for your dedication. Thanks. Have a good night.
Sure. We'll pause for a moment. Okay, you ready?
Okay. So next under the superintendent's report is a important recognition. Tonight, I'd like to take a moment to recognize Denise Birmingham for her hard work at the Reddington Middle School Garden. In honor of her accomplishment, she has been awarded the Garden of Distinction Award from the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. The Reddington Middle School Garden was selected among over 300 entries this year. And a reception will be held in Denise's honor in November in Philadelphia. So Denise, on behalf of the district and the Board of Education, I'd like to thank you very much for your commitment and for earning this certificate and this fantastic award. So thank you for everything that you do. And I have an award for you. Thank you very much. A small token. Thank you.
And I'd just like to add that in gardening circles, that's the most prestigious gardening horticultural society in the United States.
That's fantastic. I don't know a whole lot about gardening, but it seems like a really prestigious award, and to be selected over 300 entries, I think it's absolutely fantastic. So Denise, thank you so much for everything that you do. We really appreciate it. Thanks. And finally, I'd like to introduce Gwen Thornton from the New Jersey School Boards Association. She has a presentation tonight to discuss the development of board goals. So I will turn it over to Gwen. You're already up and running.
Okay. It's preloaded.
It should be, yeah, it should already be on there.
Well, thank you all for loading it. I wear that around my neck so I don't leave it anywhere. For those of you, I think I know all of you. I don't know you, Dr. Hart, but welcome.
Thank you.
I'm the field service representative for New Jersey School Boards that covers Huntington County, Union County, and Somerset County. And this is my 15th year with the association, so it's very nice to be back in Readington. I happen to be here. I was not here last year, but it is nice to be back. And I certainly am hoping to see some of you in Atlantic City next week for the training conference that we run every year. And one of the things that we talk about with school districts on a regular basis is the need to set annual goals. And I noted that on your website, you have a strategic plan in place that runs through the year 2020. And typically when we talk about, thank you very much, goal setting, we talk about where you begin.
Sorry, we can't hear. It's the microphone.
Most of the time people can hear me with my teacher voice, but I apologize for not being able to be heard. Goals really are the foundation for policy development. You know, by definition, you're a policy-making body. You create policy that provides the roadmap for the organization and running of your district. It assists you in making sure that you have optimum resource allocation. Budgeting is never easy. There are never enough dollars, as I'm sure you know, from your years of service. It assists in program planning to make sure you have effective curriculum and co-curricular programs. It provides an objective basis for your superintendent's evaluation. I would also point out to you that this year they have restructured CUSAC. And this year, the superintendent's evaluation, originally we were told they were streamlining the DPRs, the district performance reviews per CUSAC, but they went from 5 indicators in the governance DPR to 12. So much for streamlining, but that's the Department of Education. In doing so, they have moved the superintendent's evaluation from 6 points to 13 points. So it becomes more critically important to make sure that you complete that task in a timely way so that the entire process is put to bed by July 1. And I mention that just because they've just made that change and they're going to be paying, we hear, closer attention to that deadline for boards. So please keep that in the back of your minds moving forward. It's also really an effective communication tool. It allows your parents, your teachers, all stakeholders within your community to know what your focus is for the year by having annual goals. They should drive the work of the board, drive the work of your board committees. And they really do provide a way of holding yourselves accountable when you do your self-assessment, your board self-evaluation at the end of the year, having completed the superintendent's evaluation, to really look at what you have done and how effective you have been. So we really do think that it's important to set goals, and really when you set goals, you affect the entire system, not just one portion or another. And so we think that that's really typically something that boards may not consider, but when you grow in one area, it really pushes the development of the whole district in many areas. You've seen this cycle before, I know, through your mandatory training, but it's really a continuous cycle. You set goals, you work on them throughout the board year, you evaluate the superintendent, you evaluate yourself, and the process really does then begin anew. And so it's critically important to have those goals in place to give your administration time to put together action plans to move the district forward. And you can really think about it as either cascading down or scaffolding up, but setting district goals that enables your administration to work with their building principals and teachers to align their goals to the district goals, and thereby ensure that everyone is rowing in the same direction, because different goals will look different, or the same goals will look differently in different buildings at different grade levels, at least in terms of student performance and academic achievement. So we live in a data-driven age. We hear it all the time. You hear it all the time. There are multiple sources of data that you can look at beyond simply the standardized assessments. If you're talking about school climate and culture, you may want to look at various kinds of data around beyond your proprietary assessments, but looking at enrollment projections. As you know, Hunterdon County and Sussex County and a couple others are really being challenged in the last year or so with enrollment decreases, and that's become a significant issue for a lot of districts within the county. And so looking at the kinds of data around demographics, around enrollments, how they're going up or going down, really do impact what you do as a district. Other sources of data for the softer kinds of pieces, your HIB, absentee rates, student and staff, your violence and vandalism reports, culture and climate surveys that you may do on an annual basis of the students and parents. Also, if your staff provide all kinds of information to you that you can use to help determine what direction you would like to go in terms of your goals. So when we talk about that goal development, everyone owns the district goals. They are collaboratively set with your administration and obviously input around the academic program and all other aspects of operation of the district. And they really are, generally speaking, in the area of student achievement, which the state requires you have at least one goal focused around that, particularly around subgroup performance would be their preference. But then around professional development, facilities, finance, policy, all areas of board responsibility to move the district forward. Your board goals that you may set, and some boards do and some boards don't, it's really a best practice, have to do with your processes and procedures and how you operate and function, looking at how you can better support the district goals. Your chief school administrator typically has professional development plan that is not evaluative in nature, but rather designed to improve and align with the district goals to ensure improvement within the district. And then some superintendents have merit goals, which are contractual and contained in the contract, but not directly related to your district goals, although typically merit goals support the district goals. So that's something. So as you think about developing your goals, you should think about your vision and your mission for the district, your mission statement, strategic planning goals, data, and then looking at the previous year's goals and what was achieved and what's still in progress. Typically speaking, many goals in education are multiple year goals because making movement with kids along that continuum can take a significant period of time. They're not the kind of thing that generally you can complete in a single year. And so oftentimes goals are multi-year. So as you think about your district goals, really your focus should be, what are the kinds of things that you can do as a district that will most dramatically improve what students know and are able to do? You know, how do we move student progress and achievement forward? And where can we really focus our efforts to ensure that we are educating students for the 21st century, that they're going to be critical thinkers, collaborative problem solvers, digitally literate. civically responsible, culturally responsive with a love of learning, and then that they have the kinds of personal characteristics you just saw in your student council, obviously, that are empathetic, caring, giving back to their community, concerned about life beyond themselves, which is critically important in our society. So I would say there is your mission statement, and it's something that you have had. You may want to look at changing the New Jersey core curriculum content standards to say New Jersey student learning standards, now that we've changed the name for the fifth or sixth time. But just a thought. Here are your strategic planning goals, which I'm sure you are more familiar with than I am. But again, they're very broad goals, but they do speak to moving the district forward, expanding the academic and co-curricular programs for students, providing your staff with the professional development that's necessary to support the work, promoting a healthy and caring school environment, which is culture and climate, building a strong community in and among your schools and township, again, something that a lot of boards are working on, which is, two-way communication and engaging stakeholders is always an ongoing challenge. And then enriching character education and service learning opportunities for your students, which we just saw demonstrated live and in person. Clearly, they're doing a lot in terms of service learning opportunities. So I would turn to all of you to see and ask, what are your strengths and most recent achievements? What's in progress that you want to continue? And then perhaps where is an area where you think deserves your additional attention or needs additional focus from the board?
Well, in years past, we had communication, which is always a struggle, as you know, for all districts to reach out to the community and get them more involved. Each year, we renew that to look for new ways to try to reach out and get them more involved. I'm not sure how the board feels about continuing that as
I'm going to move up here just because you have chart paper up here, so I can. Is that okay?
Sure.
I just want to make sure I'm not in the wrong place. How does the board feel about that? Continuing that as a goal?
I'm good with it.
I like to think of that as an evergreen goal.
Right.
Absolutely.
It never goes away.
We struggle with it, and yet we seem to get a little better every year. Every year, we seem to do something just a little different, and it seems to, at least for a first attempt, work. Then building on it seems to be a weakness that we have, and as we pointed out, I think all districts have that problem. I just don't know where we go from there, but we got a little better this year. We got a lot more involvement this year, maybe because of the union contract, maybe because of the superintendent search. We had a little more involvement this year. So I'd like to see us build on that in the future if we can.
Okay. And I think it's become more challenging because with technology, communication is now beyond the speed of light. And so sometimes that presents, it's a plus in a lot of ways, but it also presents a challenge in making sure that you're getting out information in a timely way, since oftentimes it's out before you even have a time to digest it. And that's a challenge, I think, for boards. And it has made it more challenging because it's so fast. And people have come to expect information at the same speed that they get alerts on their phone, on a regular basis.
Another goal that we've had year after year is regarding the budget. With the 2% cap, still maintaining programs. We had reduced enrollment, but as of the beginning of this year, we actually increased.
Oh, good.
So we're hoping that that's a trend. We have a lot of things going on in the district. So I'm hoping that will continue to possibly go ahead.
So to continue within the financial constraints of the state funding formula to be able to provide educational excellence in programming and co-curricular programs.
For a growing community.
Yeah.
Okay. We will add the language that says growing community.
Well, let me just go back to the question about reaching out to the community. Is there some way that when we're down at the conference in Atlantic City, that we can reach out to other districts? I don't know if there's any sort of a venue for this, to say, how do you reach out to community members that aren't parents, that don't have kids in the schools? Is anybody doing this successfully? I mean, we try to dig ideas from ourselves. We've
Not just
explored
there.
that. What?
Yeah, each conference that I would go to, or the county conferences, you sit around a table and that inevitably comes up, and they all struggle with it. Nobody has the magic bullet yet that just says, yeah, this is what really works. People try things and they all have the same result. Unless they have a vested interest, except for the vote, which they don't have anymore, except if you go over 2%.
You know, it is a mixed blessing with the removal of the community's ability to approve the budget on a regular basis. If you moved your election, as you know, it eliminated the need to have your community approve your annual budget. It's a mixed blessing. I will tell you, having campaigned for 10 different budgets in a regional school district over a decade, it's still a blessing. But it also has removed some of the interest, I think, on behalf of community members, especially those who may not have children within the school district. In most communities, the average in New Jersey is approximately 20% of your total population. This is an average, not necessarily Reddington, but an average statewide of only 20% of residents have children within your schools at any given point in time. That means we're missing 80% of the population, roughly, in every community who don't have access to the same information, obviously, the parents do. And we do ask for people to give us their two most important things, I hope in this order, their kids and their money. And so we really do have an obligation. There is a program at Workshop this year, and I know one of the themes, it's an ed camp. Have you ever heard of ed camps? It really came out of teacher professional development. And we've been working on this notion where on Monday afternoon, if you're down in the afternoon, there's an ed camp. It's on our schedule. And it's just board members talking to other board members, identifying topics that they wish to discuss, and then sharing among and between board members what best practices are that they're engaging in within their school district. And it's not any authority. There's no PowerPoint presentation like I'm doing tonight. It's really just board members talking to other board members and sharing their experiences and hopefully their best practices. And so I would encourage you, and we're asking people to go, and the schedule's on the website. I forget what time it is. I think it's 1:15, and identify topics that they wish to discuss. And then there will be groups created of board members who can just sit then and discuss those topics. And I'm sure that along with school funding, which is, again, an evergreen topic, just the same way communication is, the communication will be a key piece as well, okay? So I would encourage you, we do try to make opportunities available for board members to have those kinds of conversations. I was just in a district this past week talking about, they had an incident with some graffiti on a building that was very disturbing, and how fast the news went out into the community. And it went so fast that there was almost no time for the district to be able to respond without really having information to respond to, because it was a weekend, students weren't in the building, there was no way of knowing, you know, they had to get the authorities in, the appropriate law enforcement folks to look at the situation and who was involved and so forth and so on. So, you know, a lot of the community members were very concerned and upset and rightfully so, because it was really rather disturbing graffiti just in terms of acceptance of diversity. And so, those kinds of things and how do you handle that was something that we spent a great deal of time talking about, and how board members could respond when they were getting calls, but there was really not much to say that you could appropriately say in those circumstances without having had an investigation and having it completed and having, something that you could really say other than it is distressing, we're concerned, we're addressing it, we're waiting for a report back from the local authorities, that kind of thing. So, I would certainly think that communication, again, is going to continue to be challenging no matter what, but that would be an opportunity to do that. So, other goal areas that you think you would like to focus on?
Well, for years, green initiative, sustainability has been very strong in this district. Last year we put solar panels in, and we need to collect the data and have everything analyzed. So do you have a direction that you want to continue?
Well, we'd certainly like to start taking the data, collecting it, and then integrating it into the curriculum wherever it's possible. I mean, there's a lot of, as the data starts flowing in, it can be used in the math, in the math, in math class, it can be used in any number of different ways. So, we're hoping to, as we work out the kinks in the data collection system, and that's where we are right now, in the early stages as it's coming in, we're having some issues with the data collection, but that certainly would be, integrating it into the STEM curriculum.
Are you part of Future Ready? No.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Future Ready, which is, again, another kind of sustainable program, only in the area essentially of technology. So it's very akin to New Jersey First, which was the sustainability piece, only this is for technology. And many districts, there's the same kind of process. We are working with NJIT and the State Department of Education, and it really has to do with infusion of technology and making sure that districts are preparing students for the 21st century in terms of technology. And it's very similar to the sustainability efforts and the green initiatives. It's called New Jersey First, and if you're down at workshop, there's a whole Future First Ready area that you can go see. It has a lot to do with 3D printers and kids making projects, and it's really directly tied to STEAM and STEM curriculums, and it's something that we're very actively involved in and have been training boards. And again, it's something that an individual school can decide to do, or a whole district. Again, very much like the sustainability, so that you can become certified as a future-ready school district. And again, with an eye to containing technology costs, but at the same time, making sure that you're providing all of your students with the latest up-to-date kinds of opportunities for learning technological skills. And so it's a really wonderful kind of program that we've been working on for the last year and a half, I guess, closer to 2 years, really, when I think about it. But it may be something, again, that you want to think about, not necessarily for this year, although you may wish to do it, begin that process. Because again, it's very much aligned. It's the technological half of the sustainability piece. So it's something to consider moving forward. But I would ask you, as the new superintendent, if you've identified any new initiatives or areas that you think the board should really focus its efforts on.
So with Future Ready, one of the things, we do have some Future Ready components in the district, but we have not applied for the certification. So we do have some things like 3D printers, maker spaces, and other technology initiatives, but we haven't pursued the certification process. I guess I would ask the board to consider some of the things that we've talked about a little bit earlier. Our social emotional learning component of the curriculum. We have a teacher coordinator who's dedicated to social emotional learning. And we're also looking to enhance that program. So I would consider that potentially as something the board would want to consider as a goal, as well as some of the safety and security initiatives that we've already completed and some of the plans that we have upcoming. I think those would be two areas I would suggest to the board maybe consider as potential goals.
Yeah, I think that following in on Dr. Hart's recommendation, as a ballot question to fund some school security,
Yeah,
I think that we should have something in essence shovel ready if the money is available. I don't remember whether or not it would apply to, would this district be eligible for some of that funding?
I don't think it's clear yet, depending on how the ballot question goes, whether or not we would be eligible or what districts would be eligible to apply. But certainly it's something that we could look into. But I believe it's $500 million in state funding for enhancements to safety and security. Now, the application process for the grant would have to be, my understanding is, collaborative between law enforcement and the school district. And we would certainly work with them. I don't know what the specific requirements would be. But it's absolutely something we would look into, and I think we would be ready with some initiatives and things we want to undertake should we be awarded the money.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like with any application process, first in is first considered. So we definitely should identify some projects that we think are high priority, and then get them ready to submit those applications as soon as it becomes apparent whether or not that money is available. I remember that, having read the ballot initiative, some of it's for vocational technical spending. Some of it, I
There's
think, is
been
for
no
water
definition
projects.
yet
Yeah.
around how much is designed for the vocational technical piece and how much is for safety and security, because the vocational schools are waiting with bated breath too, to see if they get some additional revenue, as there's an increasing push, obviously, to provide some alternatives to the standard high school curriculum, and to a lot of we just finished a task force report, which is available online. This is sounding like a commercial, and I apologize, but there is a task force report on alternate to college attendance, that we are missing in a lot of schools, opportunities for students to go into careers. Well, we've talked about 21st century college and career readiness. It's essentially been college readiness, and there's nothing wrong with that. I am certainly not denigrating that, but there's a whole group of students who really want and need and deserve alternate kinds of vocational trainings, and many of the vocational technical schools, as a result of NCLB and now ESSA, have become academies with entrance requirements and are more academically focused than some of the most rigorous high schools. And so as a result of that, there's a huge population of students that we've underserved. And if you look, at your high school performance reports, if you look at New Jersey Monthly's ranking of schools in the state of New Jersey, it's all based around the number of AP classes. It's based around the number of acceptance levels of four-year colleges and universities, and there's very little that's really addressed around students who want to pursue alternatives to college, to really pursue a career or other kinds of certifications. So that's really one of the reasons I think that you're seeing that, at least that portion of funding for the vocational technical schools, because they've sort of gotten off track, at least in many counties, not all, but in many counties.
Go ahead. It's all you.
I think we can add to this because we've been developing a short-term
medium-term, long-term goals, so we could probably say a 3-year plan for security enhancements for the district.
Okay. So I just wrote to continue to upgrade and refine safety and security measures to ensure student safety over the next 3 years. Because you already have a lot in place, but it's not, I don't want the community to think that there's nothing here.
Right.
Obviously there is,
No, there's plenty,
but
there's room
we
to
always
grow.
have to prepare for the unexpected that we haven't yet thought of, which is scary. And the other piece you talked about, I'm sorry, I got.
So the other piece was
Oh,
social
so
emotional learning,
SEL,
right, yeah.
okay.
Mhm. So I guess it would be to, assess the district's status as far as a social emotional program and create a direction forward in developing the program.
So to assess the district's current
Yes.
programs in social emotional learning and determine necessary programming to move forward.
Yeah, for the future.
For the future. Okay.
I think we're good now.
I think you're good now. I think you have put a huge amount on your plate, especially for a new superintendent. So,
So I'm going to disagree.
okay.
What else?
We all know I'm a lame duck. I would like the board over the next year or two maybe to consider restructuring of the board. Consider possibly a 7-member board instead of a 9-member because it's getting harder and harder to get people to run for seats.
We've talked about that, yeah.
And to look at restructuring our committees, maybe just drop the committee membership to 3 board members instead of 4. Maybe restructure the committees so that the committees are looking at different areas than where they look today, or combine some of the committees. Just a restructuring of the board, and as in a total. And it's not going to be a 1 month hit it and get it project. It'll take a couple of years to evaluate all the impacts. And I'd like to see the board commit to doing that.
Wayne, it sounds like we need an outside consultant for that.
And here's what I would tell you, Wayne. I would tell you that that's a board goal, not a
Yes,
district goal.
Absolutely a board goal.
Okay. I mean, that's a board goal if it's something you want to explore. And certainly it is something that we are seeing. Who just got in touch with me? Another district in Huntington County, I have to think. And they're thinking of reducing their board members from 9 members to 7 members. And so I did some research, and I can send that to you all, around the number of boards that have done that recently. And it's been a mixed bag. Some have been successful because it has to be approved by your community. It has to go out for a vote. Typically, I was going to say out of habit the April election, but that would be the November election. And then I can, go chapter and verse about boards of education being the basic unit, the fundamental unit of American democracy, and why reducing the number of voices is probably antithetical to that democratic concept, but I won't. I'll let it go. Sorry, that's my own soapbox. But it's a good board goal if the board's interested in doing it, because that truly is the responsibility of the board. So if you want to think about it, have a discussion, you certainly can add that at any point in time. If you want me to add it as a board goal now, I can do that.
If it's under experience.
Yeah.
Start to experience.
You have to start the process somewhere. And I'm not looking for a commitment to complete the process, but at least start the process of looking at it and determining if there's a benefit or not to the Readington community to do that.
And if you need a community member that'll be active in that, I'll be happy to join.
Okay, so explore the possibility of reducing the board from 9 to 7 and restructuring the board processes. That's a big goal. I don't think the board needs more than the one goal for the year, truly, because that's a huge, huge goal. Okay. And there are boards who've expanded their boards too, from 5 to 7 and 7 to 9. And we sort of keep informal track of that as well, just to be able to provide you with that information, and I can get it to you after workshop. So, are we good? Okay. Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure. You guys are always easy. We always do this quickly, which is wonderful. And I'll let you get back to your regular meeting.
Thank you so much. for
And I
coming
hope to
out.
see you all in Atlantic City.
I'll be there.
Okay?
Thank you, Gwen. Yeah, no, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. That is everything I have for the superintendent's report for this evening. Unless there's anything else, I think we're good.
Okay, we're now open to the public, limited to action items on the agenda. Not hearing any. We had one correspondence since our last meeting.
Just a reminder, that's the screening tomorrow night over in Branchburg of the film Screenagers. That was the invitation that we got from the superintendent in Branchburg.
I'll be attending.
Excellent.
So
I'll be there.
Cool.
administrative reports. Can I get a motion to adopt 1.01?
So moved?
Second.
I would like to mention again that the enrollment is up by 55, which is 4% from this time last year.
So I saw that was mostly at White House School. Is it kindergarten or is it just throughout? Do we know?
I'd have to look in more detail.
Oh,
That's the total enrollment for the entire district, up by over 50.
right. But when you look at the breakdown, White House jumped a lot. So I didn't know if it was just the kindergarten thing.
I'll do a comparison and get back to you year to year by grade level.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
No. Moving on to minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call, please.
Wayne Doran,
Yes.
Carol Hample,
Yes.
Rob McCallum,
Yes.
Melissa Zanto,
Yes.
Eric Zerling,
Yes.
Anna Shen,
Yes.
Laura Simon,
Yes.
passes.
Minutes. Can I get a motion to adopt 2.01?
So moved.
Seconded?
Are there any questions or changes for the minutes? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Wayne Doran,
Yes.
Carol Hample,
Yes.
Rob McCallum,
Yes.
Melissa Zanto,
Yes.
Eric Zerling,
Yes.
Anna Shen,
Yes.
Laura Simon,
Yes.
passes.
Finance and facilities. Can I get a motion to adopt 3.01 to 3.06?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions on the agenda items? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Wayne Doran,
Yes.
Carol Hample,
Yes.
Rob McCallum,
Yes.
Melissa Zanto,
Yes.
Eric Zerling,
Yes.
Anna Shen,
Yes.
Laura Simon,
Yes.
passes.
Education technology. Can I get a motion to adopt 4.01 to 4.12?
So moved.
Second.
And we have a report.
Yes, we do. The committee met on October 10th. We discussed curriculum revisions that are asked to be approved today. The committee recommends them for approval. What you're going to see is Gifted and Talented actually has its own brand new curriculum and definition. K-3 curriculum have remained basically the same. Grades 4 to 8 are brand new, and they're updated with enhanced level of thinking and skills. The suggestion was made to separate enrichment and gifted and talented into 2 documents, so you notice that. And that's because then now there's clear definitions and clear-cut information for each. Financial literacy, the curriculum was enhanced to now be 1 document that covers 6 through 8. 6th and 7th grade covers 21st century personal finance skills. And there was a need to add 8th grade because our students are advancing. And 8th grade has been expanded and now includes high school standards of career readiness. There was an update on the CUSAC, which Gwen touched on. The board needs to approve the modifications that are also on the agenda for today. And we recommended them last meeting. We will recommend them again for this meeting. There will be no SOA or compliance documents just for this year. The state will ask for assurance documents as the year progresses. However, the district's going to start checks and balances for CUSAC and to start reviewing them in anticipation of our 2020-2021 full CUSAC audit. For Aerospace Club, we have 10 students who are attending the preliminary session. This will be for the parents to assess if this is feasible for their child and their family, since it's no longer a once-a-month club. It's now a weekly club. Updates will follow. Park is no longer called Park. It's now NJSLA. And then we have the dash LA for LA, dash math for M for math, and dash S for science. It's a reduction of testing time and could potentially affect our schedule. So more information is going to be coming. We had some updates on things happening around the district. Literally pilot is a neutral scoring system for running records. Grades 4 through 6 seem to be on target with what the teachers are getting. Grades 2 through 3, there's very little fluctuation, but they're going to work real hard to analyze that and to bridge that gap. Phonics, we're using the Phonics Pilot Teachers Program, which is currently Teachers College Program, which is currently K-1 with the potential of K-2. Initial thoughts is very positive, so we're going to keep watching that. Ready Math Early Adopters, these are our pilot and first go at it people. Very positive feedback for that. This program focuses on number sense and understanding and not being rushed through it. So it's so far extremely positive. We'll keep an eye on it. And iReady is an adaptive diagnostic program that's on the computer, and it does 3 assessments a year. And with each assessment, it suggests practice mini lessons. It also analyzes the groups of students and place them into groups based on their needs for those mini lessons, and list the material and specific lessons. It just seems to be really in depth. And that's also been well received. STEAM Tank competition at New Jersey school boards. A group of middle school students will be participating in the competition in Atlantic City, and board approval for the trip is recommended. RVCC Partnership for the Arts. Raritan Valley Community College has a dual enrollment with the high school and its students, and they're looking to possibly expand into K-8 districts. They're hoping to give college-level experiences in the arts, They would be able to provide opportunities at a level that we're currently not able to. This is in infancy stages, so as we get more information, I'll be able to relay them to you as well. And our next meeting is November 1st at 8:30 in the morning.
I will say that I was really happy to read that part, the RVCC partnership, because we reached out to them a number of years ago looking to have them do classes here to bring more community members into the district, and we were shut down. They didn't have a need.
They just need,
That's right,
this is for the arts,
Mhm.
yes.
But-
And well, they sat on it for a while.
Yeah.
It's okay.
That's okay. They're coming around.
That's all.
Excellent.
I had
Thank
one
you.
question on the enrichment curriculum.
Mhm.
The kind of picture that was on the back that showed the tiers. It was like on the very last page. Gifted and talented services were listed as pullouts, which we're not really doing anymore.
They are doing it in the K-3.
Okay, because 6 and 7 were listed as pullout as well.
They aren't they in their encore class?
It's an encore
They're in
instead.
an
Yeah.
encore now, so we may want to take a look. They're not pulled out. They're
It's an
now
encore.
included in an encore. Thank you.
Are there any questions on the agenda items? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Wayne Doran,
Yes.
Carol Hample,
Abstain 4.09, yes to the rest.
Rob McEwen,
Yes.
Melissa Zanto,
Yes.
Eric Zorling,
Yes.
Anna Shin,
Yes.
Laura Simon,
Yes.
passes.
Personnel? Can I get a motion to adopt 5.01 through 5.08?
So moved.
Second,
All right. And we have a committee report.
Yes, the short one.
Okay.
Jealous.
There we go.
The committee met on October 9th. We discussed various staffing matters as well as current openings that remain within the district. We also discussed Regulation 7441, which relates to surveillance on school grounds. That's it. And our next meeting is scheduled for November 7th at 8:30 in the morning.
Thank you. We have one change on number 5.08. The name is incorrect. The name should be replaced from to Jill, and the last name is Komosinski. Komosinski. So are there any questions on the agenda items? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Wayne Doran,
I need to abstain on 507 to avoid a potential conflict of interest. All the rest, yes.
Carol Hample,
yes.
Rob McEwen,
Yes.
Melissa Zanto,
Yes.
Eric Zorling,
Yes.
Anna Shin,
Yes.
Laura Simon,
Yes.
passes.
Communication. Can I get a motion to adopt 6.01?
Second.
All right. Are there any, we have a committee report?
Meeting on Tuesday, September 25th, 8:20 p.m. We had a request for a use of a sports field. So we took a look at our current policy, all the way back from 2012, and discussed past practice. We gave the green light to plan the event and discuss some policy revisions and a tier of use and fee structure going forward. Some press releases coming up for November, assessment scores, December financial literacy, January budget. And we had no need for the meeting that we had discussed at that time. And YouTube was mentioned. The link had been added to the board page. We wanted it under each school under quick links for easier access for parents. Community members. That is all.
Thank you. I had a question. When I was going through it, it looked like the only ones that would have a fee in the new updated one were the for-profit. I seem to
Absolutely.
recall that there were tiered ones prior.
Mhm.
What was the thought process of getting rid of that?
We're still going to have the tiers because there might be fees for custodians and other things like, or staff, if we need staff personnel or police or something like that. But we know that we have to revisit each of those classes and the schedule. So we're looking at redesigning the fee structure as we redesign the policy. So there may be fees associated with nonprofits because they're nonprofits, but only custodial, whereas for-profit businesses, there may be a fee associated, a fee associated in addition to a custodial fee or something like that.
I was surprised to see political. That surprised me.
Because it's in there, it's from Strauss, and I suppose because they could use public buildings as a group.
Yeah. Okay.
But certainly we would discourage groups that wouldn't meet the mission of a public school district.
And if you think about it, there was a political oriented meeting back in 2011 that you and I both participated in.
It was a long time.
It was a long time ago.
There was
an 8-person debate held at RMS. You and I and Eric were all there.
About the debate for the school board?
That was in 2010.
2010, yes, I'm sorry.
Like 2011.
The policy does have language in it that does have superintendent discretion, right of refusal. So if there is ever a question about an organization that we may want to discuss ever in the future, at least there's that option to discuss it and decide, this organization might not be an organization that we wish to, host or something like that. So should something like that occur, we certainly could bring it up and have a discussion about it.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions on the policy? No?
I think if we're gonna engage in possibly, so let me say first of all, I definitely think that we should exclude groups that obviously need to be excluded. So let me get that off the table. But there's a question of the content neutrality of these decisions and the need to make certain that we are on firm legal grounds when we make such a decision. Otherwise, we're going to spend $50,000 in court at the time. So whatever we do with this policy, we have to make sure that it's done in advance and with legal advice as to how we could exclude some group that we find to be anathema and to the mission of these schools, and make sure that that is defined legally and defensively in a manner that we don't have to spend $50,000 later defending. So I would, make sure that we pass that by our attorney.
Sure, I can do that.
If there's no other questions, we can do roll call.
Wayne Doran,
Yes.
Carol Hample,
Yes.
Tom McKalen,
Yes.
Melissa Zanto, Eric Zwilling,
Yes.
Anna Shin,
Abstain.
Laura Simon,
Yes.
passes.
Unfinished business. We have the RMS cafeteria line.
So I put a note in my newsletter about Mr. Bohm and I going into RMS and looking at the cafeteria lines. Wayne, this is something you brought up last time. So we know that we saw the cafeteria and the functioning of the cafeteria on a day where they were not making, the cafeteria staff was not making fresh deli sandwiches. We recognize that that could potentially be the issue where there's some bottleneck in the cafeteria because students are getting sandwiches made to order. So in any event, there's always ways to grow, always ways to improve and think about things. So I put in the newsletter some ideas that we'll talk about in finance and facilities of ways to create greater efficiency in the cafeteria. A grab-and-go cooler for pre-made sandwiches, which hopefully could keep the lines moving. But then again, that defeats the purpose of having a fresh deli sandwich made for you, made to order. But we'll see. We could try it. Machio's is also looking to make sure that they increase their staff that are making the deli sandwiches on deli day from 1 to potentially even 3 people. So there'll be 3 people making sandwiches all at one time. And then students go to academic support right after their lunch. So in talking with the school administration, there's no reason why a child who might need a couple of extra minutes to finish would be able to sit for 5 minutes and have 5 minutes of extra time to finish their lunch if the lines were a little long and they need a few minutes. So these are some preliminary ideas based off of what we saw and something that we'll talk in more detail in finance.
Aren't there some schedules that the academic support is first?
Not that I saw when I was there. There was 20 minutes in between each lunch, and academic support was second for all of the ones that I saw.
I think that's how it was last year.
So they go lunch and then academic support.
Correct.
I did holiday shop last year and it was
saw it.
after everyone. There was always a break in between.
There's
Last
about
year.
a 20-minute break in between.
Yeah.
I'll have to ask again. Okay.
I can find out for sure, but when I was there,
Yeah.
it was that 20-minute break.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I read the newsletter, loved the report.
Okay.
Thank you very much for taking the time to look into that for us.
You're very welcome. It was fun, actually. I talked to some kids. I got my own lunch, my own deli sandwich, and pumpkin chili. It's good.
Was there any traffic jam with checkout, or was just?
That's where it slows down a little bit with checkout. They move pretty quick, though. They type in their code, and then they go. And there's two folks, staff, on checkout to type in what the students ordered, and then they type in their code. But all in all, you saw in the report, if you follow one kid, it took about 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes for them to get through. The entire process from start to finish was 6 minutes. In a 15-minute or a 20-minute lunch period, that could be a lot of time, but that was the most that we saw. So we'll see. If there's ways to make that more efficient, we can do that, but it's a matter of typing in the item for each student. That's the problem, and they need staff. I don't even know where we would put another register because there's the 2 lines that come out of the cafeteria. And looking at it, it seemed like on the last line, it would be really difficult to fit or impossible to fit another register. The only other thing we can investigate with Machio is if there's some kind of how Amazon has that store where you could just pick up an item, put it in your bag, and walk out. I don't think Machio's is there.
A scanner code
or something like that. But certainly, this is the beginning. We'll see what we can do, and we'll keep an eye on it.
Cool. Thank you very much for doing
Yeah, you're welcome.
Is there any additional unfinished business? I have. Green, we'll do a new business. Okay. So you have your minutes? Okay. Moving on to new business from the board. Do you want to do green now?
Sure, we had a meeting on September 27th. There was reporting on the early findings from the solar panels. The initial set of bills have come in. There is some clear discrepancy with the initial readings off of the meters, because it's showing that there's about a 15 to 25% increase in electric consumption at the 3 schools that have the panels versus White House, and that's just that's illogical. It is not. There's either something wrong with the meters themselves, or we're not getting the production credits from the meters, that they're not subtracting out the production from it. So we're not certain what it is, but Jody and Don and Jason are really trying to chase this down. The utility is not making this easy at all. So they're working on it. They're aware that this is an issue. If it was simply just like weather, it would have applied to all the schools uniformly, not just those 3. If it was some sort of a usage issue, it would have been a couple of % increase, but it's contrological. There's no way that it can be explained anything other than some error with the reporting system.
Can Amoresco help us with battling it out with the electric company in any way?
I'll let Jason answer this, but Amoresco is generally not particularly helpful. But that's an editorial comment. But I'll say,
Actually, Gable Associates was actually able to help us, and they set up a one-on-one meeting with the head of JCP&L, which we had last week, and they are going to provide a lengthy report for us to tie out day by day for at least 1 month for every single school to see if we can tie out the data in aggregate. Because Amoresco, we have data to the hour that we can tie out, and we have tied out. JCP&L is kind of like a black box. We only have the invoice they provide, and that's it. So they are actually going to provide the data we're getting from Amoresco, and then we're going to combine the two to make sure that the readings on the meters are accurate.
Thank you.
That's great. So we will leave it in Jason's very confident hands. Thank you very much for looking into it. Let's see. So there was an issue. There was a lightning strike that had put out some of the system for a couple of weeks. There was some question with the response time that they had come out, and it took them a little longer than we had anticipated for them to fix it. As we know that there was, continued sushi for schools, solar displays. There are the displays in every building. They're not up yet because the website, the data that is currently being provided, there are some errors in the calculations in the data. It says, for instance, that so many kilowatt hours of electricity have been produced, but the conversions that they're using are incorrect. They're saying that this many kilowatt hours of electricity being produced is the equivalent of this much gasoline being saved, or this many miles driven in a car being saved, or this many tanker trucks. Those calculations are currently incorrect. What we have discussed at the Green Committee with Betsy Freeman, was one of the teachers, was that her students are interested in redesigning the website interface, to make it much more interesting for the students, that the data is accessible. That this, for instance, that this much energy would equal this, thus and such. That the students would conceptualize the change, then the coding would be left for others to do. Sustainable Jersey for Schools, as you know, we've done very well with that. The recertification application was due, but that was due in June, and Hollenbrook and the middle school earned bronze, and Three Bridges and White House earned silver. Three Bridges Sustainability was a champion for the state and elementary schools. Huge leaps in all point totals over the course of the program. The work done on the facilities in our energy conservation program has increased these totals. The Summer Teacher Academy online classes were offered. It's very affordable, and it aligns with the standards. The Green Classroom, 16 staff completed it. The Learning Lab, 5 completed that. They're considering adding a debrief at the end in person for future academies. There was a green cleaning class that Dawn offered, and that 8 people attended that. And that's one of the wonderful offshoots of our efforts here, are that Jody and Dawn, who have been working on these programs, are now able to teach others, not only in-house but also down at the conferences. And so what Reddington is doing is now having an impact both within the district as well as outside the district. The middle school detention basin retrofit, the issue that they raised was that because of the rain, some of the weeds had really started to take off quite a bit. That also actually I experienced myself in my own garden. We're currently that once those weeds start to die back, that the color should start coming. Some of the grasses that had been planted will start popping up. Basically, as the tall grass, as the weeds die back, the tall grass will start to collapse. Tall grasses will start to collapse, and new grasses will take their place. Other things that will be added as well for different height feature. It's rough, but it is not wrong. All the bills have been paid at this point. Spring will bring a rotation in the colors. The formal dedication in the spring, we talked about the plaque that will be there. And then after some more new things come up, there will be the educational board, as I said, will be presented. Hollenbrook has purchased a poster printer, and that may be used for some educational material in the interim. Goal setting for the 2018 and 2019 school year. There is a Trout in the Schools program. There is Trout Unlimited is a program that had contacted me. They are interested in the possibility of what they do is they donate some fish tanks to the school. They give the fish fry to the school. The classes raise the school. We would raise them, and then they would be released into the stream. So that would tie in very nicely with the detention basin and all the other river-friendly activities that we're involved in. So we're keeping the rivers clean, and now we would be releasing trout into those clean streams. We're going. There's a bid that's going out shortly for the solid waste disposal. We talked about the possibility, once again, of composting here at the schools in quantity. That still doesn't look like it's probable. It's some as far as the district wide, but at the individual schools, Three Bridges and White House, we're doing that already. We're looking into the other schools, inquiring with other schools to see what they are doing. Large scale composting, we need to. If we were going to do large scale composting, we need a place to put it. Goals for educational component to bring it home. We talked about how can we have the children take composting home, and let's see, what a challenge. There's a plastics pollution challenge at the middle school, and there's discussions about Earth Day 2019 competitions. And that, inarticulately quick, but done.
I have a few questions. I think you kind of expected that. Are we sure it's the meter issue and not the solar panels, or their production issue?
Well, the way that we, as I understand it, it shows that that the consumption at the school has increased, and so it's just not possible. I mean, the panels themselves are producers. Nothing at the schools has increased consumption. So at some point, I mean, and I'm not intimately involved with the collection of the data, but just from logic speaks that we've done nothing to increase the consumption in the schools, yet the data that we are getting shows that it has been increased. So something in the metering must simply be wrong.
Okay, and is that once that's figured out, if it is proved to be in the meter, is JCP&L going to reimburse us what we're paying and what we're owed? Or is it going to become a credit for the rest of the school year?
They, in preliminary discussions, indicated that their calculations are proper and that any credit that is owed to us will be reflected in future billings, which are solar credits. We're going back to see if their numbers are indeed accurate. But if it came to that, we have explored what we would do as next steps if we determined that their numbers were wrong, and how we could potentially recoup any monetary means from February to July is where the discrepancies are.
Second, lightning strike. Where did the lightning strike and what? I mean, I would assume that they would have to be grounded, and I don't understand. Like this is just it's bizarre.
I don't have the answer for it. I mean, the information that we were given in the Green Committee was that there had been a lightning strike that had put some percentage of the panels out of commission for some period of time, that it took them approximately a week or two to come and respond to it, that they were not.
Who responded?
Jason.
The company, the contractor originally came and reviewed it and then determined that another company needed to come out to look at some electronic component of it. So it was actually two separate contractors that had to come out. The first came out, I think, a week, and then a couple days later, they finally resolved the issue. So there was actually two groups of people that came out. But the key thing is that Amoresco is in charge of monitoring it and then dispersing a contractor that they have on staff or outwards to come out and fix. They're obligated to do that based on their own schedule. And if they don't meet the quotas over the 5-year period, then we would be reimbursed at that time. So it's more of 5 years versus months.
Okay.
So who concluded that it was a lightning strike? Who made that determination?
That came directly from the vendor itself. We actually don't know. I can't verify if that's true or false.
No.
No.
Yeah. Is that,
Yeah, I mean,
is that
That's
an out
different.
in the contract?
well, the important thing to remember, I mean, Jason, to Jason's point, which is that we have contracted from them to purchase a certain amount of electricity from those panels. If those panels go down for whatever period of time, they're still contractually obligated to provide that amount of electricity at the contracted price.
Okay.
And so, it's on them if they don't get out there for 6 months and fix it, they still have to provide us that amount of electricity at that price. So
Okay.
it's, no financial harm to us. It's just that we would now be not getting the electricity from our solar panels, which is unfortunate.
But with this JCP&L bill being 13% higher for the 3 schools, who's paying that 13% higher? Because we didn't use more. That's where I'm having. Who's going to pay this? We were supposed to see a reduction. Let's say if the logic is true that this is illogical with the meters, then we should have seen a 13% reduction. So therefore, it's 26%. This whole thing is off.
No, I mean, what we should have seen was the same amount, roughly the same amount of electric usage in the district, all things considered. And now some of that electricity, depending upon the school and the panels that we had there, we should have been getting it at a less expensive than it was off the had we bought it off the grid.
Okay.
So what the savings was, a few cents per kilowatt hour, whatever it happened to be. What we are now looking into, or what the district is now looking into, is why there's apparently an increase in consumption in the district based upon the data we are getting from it. There are a couple of reasons that could be. As I said, I've given you a couple of. The third one, which I did not say, and I'll just say this as as a scientist who's collected a lot of data in my life. We're now collecting data with different devices than previously they were collected. These are new meters collecting data in the same place that old meters were. It's conceivable, and I don't know, that these new meters are right and the old meters were right.
Okay.
That these are accurately representing the amount of consumption that we're using. And the old ones were underreporting. I don't know.
Okay.
Let's hope it's not that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's not that. I really, I hope.
Okay.
But that,
That makes more
that's what
sense to me,
happens.
like I,
Hopefully next year, then we'll be able to compare with
yeah.
the meters from it, right? Well, eventually,
Yeah,
we might
thank
be able
you.
to get an answer to that
Because
question.
it just, I don't know.
It's contrological, but
Right.
the thing is that it's like, it's the same thing as, you do the testing when you at park next, every year it's another test.
Yeah.
And you try to compare data from
Yeah,
this to
and
that,
you
to this
can't.
to that. And sometimes the data is not comparable. And so, but we'd like to think that, a kilowatt hour is a kilowatt hour, and you test, you'd like to think.
There has to be a way to test those meters.
What?
There has to be a way to test those meters to make sure they're measuring.
Well, I don't know that all the same things tied into all the same needs. I mean, these are questions I have to freely admit. This is way beyond what I know on the subject. This is something
Should be
that,
able to help us, right?
what?
Are there our consultant that we hired, what's their name again?
Gable, that one.
Gable? Yeah, they should be able to help with some of this, right? At least try to understand what the issue is or how we figure out what the issue is. Aren't they there to help us with some of that?
We've paid them in full, for their obligations.
No more.
I have one final question about these monitors. Who, do we know who was supposed to set up the conversion? We were given the wrong monitors. That delayed us from getting them. Then we got different monitors. They're not hooked up. It's just a little frustrating. Like it's like painting your house, putting up your molding, but forgetting a corner.
I don't know who is responsible for it. I mean, the first time that I actually pulled up the data and I looked at it, it was so blatantly wrong. The numbers were so, the gut check was so many miles off that I looked at it, I said, who possibly could have put this together? And it came to us from them, from, I believe it's from Amoresco. Where if you looked at it, it said like, this many kilowatt hours saved equals this many tanker trucks of gasoline, which equals this many miles driven in a car. And if you looked at it, the equivalencies were like that somebody was getting the equivalent of about 36 miles, driving 36 miles per tanker truck of gasoline, which is like 9,000 gallons of gas, and they're getting 35 miles on it. And on and on and on. I mean, and the thing why that offended me so much, and why I really blew, I'm very controlled here compared to what I did outside this room. Because that data is supposed to be used by our students.
Right.
And in our math class, we're going to ask these kids to convert this to that, to this, to that. And there's about 6 different, and this equals this, equals this, equals this, equals this. And if a kid had seen that, if anybody had seen that, it would have calmed down. And I wasn't. And that's why understanding that this was an educational tool that was meant to be used for that purpose enraged me.
Well, yeah, I mean, but it's just, it's to me, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. I'm glad you caught it before our kids were looking at it, but this whole delay with these monitors.
The monitors, I mean, and everything, it has been profoundly unacceptable and unprofessional. And, that is my area of expertise. I cast one eyeball at it rather quickly, that I caught it, that there's somebody who's a professional, who's vending that as a service, who then let that go out, and I might add, that wasn't written in-house. That was written by somebody who gave it to us, which means that there's other schools somewhere in the United States that are using that, that garbage. Absolutely mind-boggling.
And you'll be happy to know that the high school, having witnessed our success, is now considering their own solar fields.
Look, the concept is fine. I just think that the
with the same companies.
Oh. Oh, no.
I guess, so we have a plan to correct it, right? To find out if there is a correction as far as what we're being told that we're using versus what we think we're using, right? We're going to look at JCP&L, or we're going to compare that and find out if there is a problem with the meters.
Yeah,
And then there's
we-
a separate issue with the monitors. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, Jason has outlined what sounds like a very reasonable approach to trying to check the usage data.
So do we have a
The-
plan for the monitors?
Initially, I mean, I did all sorts of calculations myself, but then I said, the old teach a man to fish. I could say that this equals this equals this equals this and hand it to somebody. But I don't need to do that. I think a kid should do it. Because if the kids do it, if Miss Freeman's class does it, that really means something. Because then that child, I've seen enough of my stuff in print. I got a long list of publications. If one of those kids prints it, that does it, and then he sees his or her data on a website, that child will remember that for the rest of their life. I was the person who did this and got it up on the Reddington website. That's why I controlled myself and I said, I'm not going to hand this little list that I already did. Let's ask Ms. Freeman to have her students do it. And that's the way that this should work.
I think there was conversation of having like a running total of just a general number of like kilowatt hours or something like that to be able to be used for conversions by the students and having them come up with different things. So it wouldn't all, as it was really confusing to look at anyway. There was like a whole ticker tape of different things that kept flashing across the screen. They weren't there for more than half a second. So you couldn't even really concentrate on what each one was enough to even be able to compare them side by side. So if you just have a flashing total, that might be better than this whole ticker tape of here's an oil tanker and how many it saved and here's how many car miles and how this, and it was just a lot
So
of
that's
unnecessary
so
information.
that's
because it was
what
incorrect.
her class is going to redesign.
And that is what we discussed.
Okay. Thank you.
So as far as timing, when do you think that they will have the month's worth of data?
They're going to compile the months that already exist in bills. So they're already gathering that data. Jody Betterman, our energy coordinator, is going to be reviewing that to sync the bill to Amoresco's bill and compare on a daily basis for a period of 30 days to tie out to their bills. That should be done probably in the next 30 days.
Okay.
If it works out. And if it happens to work out, then, there's just what Eric is alluding to. It basically our consumption is accurate. But, we have the ability to get raw data from JCP&L now because we've gone up high enough. So we can even do the concept again in the future month if we wanted to do it again.
Okay. So if someone will be able to report back to the board once that data has been collected and analyzed? Okay. Thank you. Moving along, I wanted to bring to everybody's attention that there is still the one-year term that's on the ballot that inevitably we will have write-ins. So if anybody's interested, somebody. And then Carol has an update on the HSA business meeting.
Yes, so I attended the HSA business meeting last week on October 10th. And so just some highlights from the meeting. They voted in the new board members, which included a new communications director because they had extra interest, so created a position. They're at 52% of their goal of $17,000 for the Invest in Your Child campaign. They ended their fiscal year 2017 to 18 with a slight surplus and donated $500 to each school. They awarded 4 scholarships at $500 each to students of ours, Reddington District students who are pursuing higher education. And so far for the 2018-2019 school year, they've awarded 7 mini grants to teachers at Hollenbrook, White House, and RMS. That includes one mini grant from the Fine and Performing Arts Committee for a drum set. And they have one executive opening left as a vice president for Three Bridges School, and they have chair positions open at each school.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to bring regarding new business?
I have one other announcement to make for the board. We've set aside November 13th and November 16th to be board members invited into our schools to take a tour of the buildings. This is during American Education Week. So the 13th will start at approximately 9 a.m. It'll be RMS and Hollenbrook. November 16th, again, start approximately 9 a.m., start at White House, and then over to Three Bridges. I or Doreen will follow up with a formal email so that you can put the date on your calendar if you'd like, and let us know who will be attending.
There was no possibility of starting at 8:30?
We could, if 8:30 works. Is there a time that works a little bit better? I just check with the building principals and
Well,
look at schedules.
If you start with the elementary schools, you want to start at the elementary schools, right? Because they're still.
No, we'll start these two.
Yeah.
Yeah, we start here.
Okay.
Well, it's 2 separate days. So
Right.
here would be.
As long as you don't start at the elementary schools first.
That would probably, yeah, I'll check with the elementary principals, but that might have to be more of a 9 o'clock, but we could certainly do
Well,
Hollenbrook and.
Yeah, we could do Hollenbrook and Three Bridges and then RMS and White House. That's what we've done before.
All on Monday.
Well, no.
Oh.
these two.
Okay, I got you. Give me a minute. I will double check and I'll get back to you with the formal times and formal invites. And if 8:30 works better, you know.
Earlier is always better.
So
Yeah.
I'd also like to make a suggestion that if we know who the new members of the board will be, that we extend an invitation to them to join us for those walkthroughs, since they won't get another opportunity until next year.
We considered that last year, and
They haven't had their screenings yet.
yeah, they haven't had their screenings yet, and we were advised against that.
Okay.
They need to be board members, official board members.
Remember, the one person running also is a parent in the district. Doesn't have a child in the school system yet.
Yeah.
So
Is one of them now already is teacher in a school or a superintendent? A position
She
in one of the
didn't.
schools?
She's not running yet. She didn't.
She has a write-in campaign. She's not officially running.
Oh,
but
she's
she
not
was
ready.
write-in.
Never mind.
Okay. That's everything? Okay. We're now open to the public. Anything on or off the agenda?
How many students are we?
You know the rules.
I do, Marie Patenza. How many, what's the increase in population?
55.
Oh, okay. And the science, environmental science lab, the money that $5,000, what is that for and what's it going to?
The $5,000 was the ability for a grant to be written for. I have my details here. Hang on.
Like it said living environmental.
Yeah, it's to fund a student-developed environmental monitoring system to collect and analyze environmental data, and it's funded through BASF, local business, and it's money that's awarded to public school districts to create these environmental sets.
Okay, because each school has a lab, science lab, that converts to other things. I'm just curious if we were going to state all those labs in all the different schools. That was my question when I saw that, so the answer is no. And my other thing is I don't really get this solar panel thing either. You know, the only person I know didn't get money reimbursed is my brother-in-law, PSE&G or whoever it is that hooked it up, didn't hook it up right. So his electric bill went up especially in the summer when you use the hot tub and all those other things. Because when they figured out, they didn't hook it up right, so the meter wasn't running when the solar panels were getting the energy, so he never benefited from the solar panels. And they didn't know it until he moved out and somebody moved in, and they couldn't believe how much the electric bill was. So to me, I don't know anybody who's had this kind of problem unless there's something wrong with the meter or it was installed improperly. And I know you're doing a great job, and I think the solar panels are a great idea, but this is, to me, the bomb. So if you need help to call somebody, Better Business Bureau, I'll do it, because this is ridiculous. That's it.
Thank you, Marie. Anybody else? Okay, we're going to move into executive session. Can I get a motion to adjourn to executive session in accordance with the Sunshine Law to discuss litigation and student matters for approximately 30 minutes, at which time the board expects to return to public session with no action to be taken. The matters discussed will be made public if and when the circumstances requiring confidentiality no longer exist. However, it is not presently known when such circumstances will exist. Can I get that motion?
So moved.
Second. Can I get a roll call, please?
Wayne Dorr,
Yes.
Carol Hample,
Yes.
Ron McKalen,
Yes.
Melissa Zanto,
Yes.
Eric Sorelli,
Yes.
Anna Shin, Laura Simon.
Yes. Turn the video off.